Hi, quick story. So we're out walking Teddy and just wanted to say really quickly, this video ended up getting long because we talk a lot about the trip. So I'm going to put timestamps down below. If you want to listen to the trip or details about the trip, watch that. If you want to skip to what we read in the month of May, you can skip to that. And if you want to see the books that Joel got while we were in Ireland and Scotland, you can jump to that. So feel free to do what you would like. We should get back to walking Teddy. Enjoy the video. Hello and welcome to Supposedly Fun. My name is Greg.
I'm Joel.
And you all know Teddy. I finally got him. Now that we're all together, on Friday when I did my Friday reads, he was just attached to Joel and did not want to be part of a video. But he's here.
Yeah.
So we're here to wrap up the month of May. Now, really quickly, I mentioned in my last Friday reads video, I'll have it linked down below, I covered a lot of the books that I read in that video because most of the books I read in May were covered on the trip. So I'm going to kind of gloss over the books that I read in May so that way we can focus on telling you a little bit more about our trip. And we can focus, Joel can show you the books that he got as souvenirs. We'll show some of the other souvenirs we got.
Yeah.
And then we could talk about the books that Joel read. And if you want, I'll refer you to the Friday reads, or I have a dedicated video to the Pulitzer Prize winner, unfortunately, that I can refer you to for a lot of the stuff that I read. But
Cool.
How was your May?
Well, the trip was awesome.
Yes.
My reading, not so great.
Yeah.
I got 6 books. Couple were okay. A couple weren't great. They were what they were.
Yeah.
So.
It's hard to read when you're traveling.
Yeah.
I did manage to do it, but only because we traveled around enough. And since I knew that we were going to be stopping at bookstores, I picked up books along the way and I read those. So I'll link my book haul because I talk a lot about the books I got as well.
And some of the books that you got will probably be part of my Pride Reading Month. So I'm excited.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
It'll be fun to see what you think of them.
Okay.
So what t-shirt are you wearing today?
I am wearing, Greg got me from the Giant's Causeway. If we could throw a picture in, that'd be great.
Yeah.
All these little stepping stones were like lava that were formed in octagon, and they were like all different sizes and heights, and
Yeah.
it was absolutely beautiful. I think it's probably one of my favorite part of the trips because it was natural, it was beautiful, and it has a fun story behind it.
Yeah.
But it's basically lava hit the cold water and they just formed this way.
Yeah.
And it's just beautiful.
And it was fun because our tour guide told the mythological reason for why, because of course people a long time ago in Ireland and Scotland wouldn't know, oh, clearly this is volcanic rock. It must have cooled rapidly when it hit cold water. They had stories about a giant in Northern Ireland and a giant in Scotland fighting and throwing things at each other and creating damage that was this shape in the rock. And then, of course, he'd say, but nowadays we have, geological science that tells us that this is how they were formed. Right. So it was kind of fun. That was a lot of fun. And in the early part of the trip, when we first went to Dublin, we met friends. So you have a friend named Glenn, who's your best friend.
Yep.
Basically your brother.
Kind of my brother, yeah.
Yeah, like adopted brothers.
And then another friend of ours that we have in common, that he and Glenn are very close right now, John. And so he came with us.
Yeah, so they did that tour with us.
Yeah, they did it with us. And I think I enjoyed the Causeway a lot because it was rainy and misty, but the 4 of us were just being goofy and fun. And
yeah. And
just having a blast.
Oh, yeah. And even on the way down, we were laughing on the hike down to the Giant's Causeway. There were snails everywhere, which was creeping me out. So everybody was having a laugh at my expense. So one of those things where good company can make a circumstance or a situation better. It really was all the more special because of the people. So the gift shop is in the visitor center and you have to pay to enter the visitor center. So we only wanted to pay for 1 ticket. So I went in to try to see if we could find Christmas ornaments because that's what we do. Yeah. And I got so excited when I saw that t-shirt. So I knew I had to get it for you.
Fun little story about this. So as we're down on the rocks, it's like almost half a mile, 3/4 of a mile, down to the rocks. We're down there, we're climbing around, and this ranger Joan says, "Oh, be careful! The black ones are really, really slippery and blah blah blah."
Yeah.
And so we're being very careful, and just Joan's talking to us nonstop.
Yeah.
And it's like,
and the thing you should know about Glenn is that he can talk to anybody. So I think he really engaged Joan in conversation, and that's where everything got fun.
yeah. So we're just all chit chatting, doing anything. So we start heading up the hill. Get to the top of the hill. There's Joan.
Yeah.
And Joan is like helping us on the getting into the visitor center and reading the map and just talking about the causeway and everything. So we said, okay, have a great day. Bye. And then Greg goes in the visitor center. There's Joan.
She showed up.
Yeah, well, she knew we wanted Christmas ornaments, so I think she went in to help you find the right Christmas ornament.
I think she did. She went above and beyond because we asked her, like, are there Christmas ornaments in the visitor center? We don't want to pay to get in and be disappointed. And she said there are. So I went in, and I'm trying to do this in a hurry because we have to get back to the tour bus. So I'm looking in a hurry, and all of a sudden I round a corner in the shop, and there's Joan. And I was like, I literally said to her, "You're kidding me." And she was like, "I found somebody to help you find where the Christmas ornaments were." So there's no reason Joan would be watching this, but if you're ever in the Giants Causeway and you
look for Joan,
say hi from Greg and Joel. She won't know who we are.
Everybody needs a Joan in their life.
Yeah.
That being said, the people of Ireland were so nice.
Yes.
They're friendly. They're helpful. They go, "Oh, McClanahan, are you Scottish, Irish?" I go, "Scottish." "Oh." And they want to know kind of where your family's from.
Yeah.
And they just care.
Yeah.
That's what I loved about it. Everybody just cared.
Yeah.
Our waitress one night, super busy, bubbly, but she stopped at our table and just paid attention to us.
Yeah.
At the King's Head.
Yeah, the King's
I liked
Head.
her.
By the way, if you're ever in Galway, go to the King's Head. It seems like a historic restaurant, which makes you think it's probably like a tourist trap. No. I think the best meal we had was at the King's Head.
Yeah.
And we called my mother this morning and we're telling her about the trip. And I am a reformed picky eater. So I had it, and this is actually I ate haggis in Scotland, and this is the thing that made her like, what? But we had Atlantic Sea chowder with seaweed in it. And she was like, "You ate seaweed." So it was delicious.
Best chowder I've ever had.
Yeah.
I'm trying to Google good seaweed, but in Ireland, the seaweed brushes up on the shore.
Yeah.
They wash it really good and let it dry, and then they use it. Yeah. It's just this beautiful seaweed.
Yeah.
And it's great umami flavor and earthy, and
it really added something to the chowder. And you had scallops with box teas that were
amazing.
Woof.
Teddy wants to know why he's not being talked about. I did not get to be invited to this trip, and I'm mad.
I think he's looking at a squirrel or a dog across the way because he's very intent on something, and I hear a dog barking. So,
and he was very excited when we got home.
He was, and he's been. You had to travel one night last week, so he was very clingy to Joel on Friday, and unfortunately Joel has to travel this week, so he'll probably be a little clingy again. But he's doing great. Going back, so the Giants Causeway, great. Joan was amazing, and the people. It's just super friendly everywhere we went. Had so many great conversations with people. The tourists, it was like a lesson in how people are really bad at sharing spaces and being kind to each other. But the locals, all of the Irish people that we met were wonderful. And what's really interesting as well is when we went to Italy, I had to bring up, I'm half Italian because my mother's family is from here, and they were like, okay, whatever, you're American. But when you talk to an Irish person, they will directly ask you, do you have family from here? And if you say yes, they want, do you know where they're from? And they'll kind of say to you, like, well, welcome home.
Yeah.
It's a completely different attitude. Like, they even have a museum dedicated to immigration in Dublin that will help you. They have like a genealogist on staff that you could pay to help find out where you're from. So the attitude is very different about immigration and tourists visiting. It's a small country. I kind of hope it stays a small country.
Yeah. I'm scared it's not, but it's just every place we went was just small and quaint, but yet it's still a city.
And Isle of Skye in Scotland, beautiful, but like it was already crowded and full of traffic. And we were there in the beginning of May. Tourism season doesn't really spike until after Memorial Day. Memorial Day is a holiday for us, not them, but still, it spikes around the same time. So I can't even imagine. And they said that now this will be the first summer that they allow cruise ships to dock on the Isle of Skye. I can't even imagine how people will move.
This little town was like two streets. It was literally two streets, maybe a couple side streets and a little here. And they're bringing a cruise ship into this town. They didn't even handle our bus.
Tour bus.
Well.
Yeah, the city of Portree, which is like the big city, it's like, what, 3 blocks of like restaurants and shops, and that's it. And that's kind of being generous. So I don't know how they're
Cute
going to do
little town,
Adorable.
really adorable. I just loved
We got fish and chips wrapped in newspaper.
It was wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't see my t-shirt, but it comes from, here we go. It's a hairy coo. Let me see if I can lift it up a little bit. Isle of Skye. So Highland cows, if you're unfamiliar, are super cute. We do have an ornament that Joel's looking for. So I saw this t-shirt and I fell in love. Apparently locals call them hairy cows or hairy coos, which I just think is fun. So of course we saw this ornament and had to get it. That's your Highland cow.
There we go. And a little Santa hat.
Yeah.
Little Santa hat.
What do you think of that, Teddy? No.
Not impressed.
Not impressed. So that was a day trip we took. We went to the Eilean Castle, which I always thought was Eileen Donnan, but no, it's pronounced Eilean Donnan. And what's fun about that is after we were there, we found out that that's probably where your family is from.
Right.
Yeah.
So the McClanahan name comes from the McLennan clan. And the McLennan clan is right there off of Eilean Donnan Castle.
Yeah.
Which was actually a beautiful castle. It's kind of one that's photographed a lot, they say.
Yeah. So. We took a lot of photos for sure. And what's fun is, I guess when I had seen photos, there's usually a lot of brown if the tide is out. And I thought it was mud. It's seaweed.
Seaweed.
And that was something else I had learned. A lot of the lochs in northern Scotland are actually fed from the sea, even Loch Ness, and that's kind of where a lot of the Loch Ness monster mythology could come from, because technically like a sea eel could get in and then just go back out, but also it's a deep body of water.
They say deeper than the Atlantic.
Yeah, which is wild to think about.
And 250 unidentified species are in there.
Yeah, they just recently
found that.
Yeah.
We may have seen the Loch Ness Monster. It could have been a rock. We don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know.
The verdict is out. So that was fun. We took a day trip up to Belfast, and that was the same day of the Giant's Causeway.
Yeah.
So it went to a castle that was, I don't remember the name of it, but it was mostly in ruins. Then went to the Giant's Causeway, and then we did go to the Dark Hedges, which is very pretty.
Gorgeous.
If you're a Game of Thrones fan, I feel like it means a lot more to you, and we have never watched Game of Thrones, so it's kind of like, I don't really understand why everyone is so excited.
It's just these very unique trees, and they just kind of grow over, and it's like a tunnel of all these trees.
Yeah.
I think they started with over 100 and some, but they're down to like 95 now.
Yeah, something like that.
So it's getting sad that I don't know why they're dying off, but...
Well, you can see on one of them, a lot of people had carved their initials in, which again goes to the tourists and people being the worst.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's not it, but and then we stopped in Belfast for like 2 hours at the end, and that was interesting because the tour guide actually talked a lot about Belfast and the history of the Troubles, even as we were on the highway going from Dublin up north. He would talk a lot about towns. And this is interesting because now just today, when we talked to my mother, she had finally dug up the town in Ireland where my father's family settled. And it was Armagh, which we went past on the trip. And he talked about. And I do want to say thank you to Jacqueline McMenamin, because she has been
a lot of help
and a great resource. She lives in Ireland. And even today, when I told her my mother had found the town and mentioned Armagh, she had a lot of stories about it and knows a lot. And it just made sense. So thank you, Jacqueline McMenamin. It's been great chatting. But he talked a lot about the Troubles and the history of the Troubles and the region. And he had a lot of personal stories, like both of his parents in separate incidents almost got killed trying to cross the border, which used to be a huge deal to get from Ireland into Northern Ireland. And now you just drive.
Yeah, just drive.
Yeah.
It used to be like a checkpoint with guns and just really nasty.
Yeah.
And it was funny. Our tour guide says, "Okay, we're coming up to the border, so get your passports out." And everybody like panicked. It's like, passports?
Yeah.
And he goes, "Just kidding. We're just going to drive through."
But you used to need passports.
You used to need a passport to get from South Ireland to North Ireland.
And really the only way, he pointed out, really the only way you know is that the road signs in Ireland have Irish language and English. And once you get into Northern Ireland, they're just English. And the road markers change a little bit, like the way they do the lines.
So interesting fact, fun with flags here. The Irish flag is green, white, and orange. And they asked, "Do you know what the colors mean?" And it's like, no, we didn't. But green is for like Southern Ireland.
Green is for Ireland.
Ireland, yeah.
Yeah, the Republic. White is for peace. And orange is for basically Northern Ireland and all of the counties that England basically kept a hold of when they reached peace
So
agreements.
it's basically the colors trying to unite. And
Yes.
it's actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
So
it was a really interesting.
I love the history we got there. I mean,
Yeah.
it's where my family's from, and I've tried to read a little bit about it. But to hear true stories about families and seeing where it was happening and hearing, it's just really phenomenal.
If you go to Dublin, we didn't do the whole epic immigration museum, but we did do the Jeannie Johnston, which is
Wow.
a replica of a boat that, so a lot of cargo ships would come from Canada with like lumber and they would dock in Ireland, and then on the way back they'd be empty. But during the hunger, when people wanted to get over to North America, they realized they could make money, so they started putting people in the cargo hold, and that's why they were known as coffin ships, because basically they would pack a whole bunch of people into the cargo hold and just lock them in there for the duration of the stay. And by the time they got over to North America, like half of the people would be dead.
Yeah.
So the Jeannie Johnston is not a coffin ship. It was a cargo ship, but it stands out because they didn't lose a single person, because the owner of the ship said, well, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. They didn't cram the cargo hold too full of people. He had a doctor, and they would allow people access to the deck of the ship, weather permitting, for at least 30 minutes. So they actually took care of the people. And that was, because it's not exactly comfortable.
No.
So to know that the other situation, like this is the best case scenario, was pretty sobering as well.
And they actually had wax figures down there, and they showed the wax figures of like 6 to a bed.
Yeah.
And it's just like head to toe, head to toe, head to toe. It's
Yeah, like sardines, basically.
Just kind of, if anybody wants to know, we are a book channel here.
Yeah.
There's a book called All Standing, The True Story of Hunger, Rebellion, and Survival of the Jeannie Johnston by Catherine Miles. It's a very depressing book. I started it, and I had to wait till I got to another place. And I think I can do audio because it may help a little bit.
I think audio would be a good way to go. But it is, we both would like to do it at some point.
But what's fascinating, you said on the Jeannie Johnston, nobody died.
Yeah.
And it was really a really cool tour of the boat to see it. So
yeah, for
that was
sure.
fun.
And another one I would like to read, somebody had recommended this at some point in the past, and visiting the Jeannie Johnston really hammered it in, is The Star of the Sea by Joseph O'Connor, because that is set on, I don't think it's the Jeannie Johnston, but a coffin ship, and sort of a fictionalized version of that. And I would like to catch up to that, because we saw that in every bookstore we visited, but I was really trying to get books that I would only really be able to get there. So I know I can get Star of the Sea here if I want. So and then Galway was a lot of fun. The Aran Islands. We do have sweaters coming, but they're being shipped. And, we knew by the time they got shipped, it would be too warm for us to really wear them, but we will show you when they come in.
So just while we're talking, I'm just going to show a couple of fun Christmas ornaments.
This one upside down.
So you got the thistle, which is the national flower. And I'm not religious, but I love Celtic knots, and I just thought it was a beautiful thing.
Yeah, we had so much fun walking around Edinburgh as well. God, we walked so much. This is one of the Christmas ornaments that I tracked down thanks to Joan in the visitor center and this is not something that they had specifically for the visitor center at the Giant's Causeway. It's Bellic, which is a popular, but how do you say no to that?
Well, everywhere we traveled, and we were on trains for a lot, going by sheep pastures, it was just must have been birthing season. So there were baby lambs everywhere.
I am honestly surprised that we didn't lose Joel, running, you see a cloud of dust and then where's Joel? And he's in the field hugging a baby sheep. I'm surprised that didn't happen. So...
you can talk about this one, because this was beautiful.
It's the old library at Trinity College.
Trinity College Library.
Amazing. That is it, full of books and magical as always. And this is only a sampling of the ornaments that we got, by the way. So we did a tour of the Guinness Storehouse and the Jameson Distillery. We mostly did it in honor of our dogs, Guinness and Jameson. But it was a really interesting experience, and of course we had to come back with ornaments for them. Now we just need to find Teddy Roosevelt ornaments for Teddy, so we can catch up.
And I love this.
Yeah, that means welcome.
Yeah, so we're gonna actually put this near the front door.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of a sampling, and when we get sweaters, we'll do definitely a sweater.
Yeah, the Aran Islands were a lot of fun.
So much fun.
And Galway was fun.
What was that big cliff?
Dunangassa.
Dunangassa. That's actually one of my backgrounds on my computer. I didn't know what it was. I just thought it was really
you're
pretty.
Kidding. How funny.
And it's like this major cliff, and then it's a plateau. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's high. And they have these rock walls going all the way around.
Because it was a stone fort in 1100?
Yeah.
Something like that?
So it's like this, almost this big plateau field that's all stone, but you'll see these rings of stones that are making the fort.
Yeah.
And when I got home, I was booted up my computer and it came out and go, that's it.
Yeah, I've been
there.
It was so gorgeous. And we rode bikes on Inishmore, and it was amazing. So on the path that we knew we didn't have a whole lot of time with the tour, but we wanted to at least get to Dunangassa because they said that's like the big tourist destination. So along the way, there's a place called Seal Lookout. And we stopped.
You saw it. I can't believe I missed it.
So we stopped and we were just kind of resting for a minute, taking pictures. And then as we got back on the bikes to ride away, I was looking, I was like, it's weird how that rock is like bowed up like a smile. That's a seal. So I had to scream, Joel, because you were way ahead of me. I think I panicked you. You thought there was something wrong for a second. And I was like, there are seals. So we stopped and we looked and we saw seals. And then we continued on and there was a little beach. We did stop at the beach on the way back. We wanted to touch the ocean.
We did.
And we did with our fingers. Yeah. We didn't put our feet in. It was really windy and cold.
Yeah, it was cold. What did we see in Dunangassa?
We saw a shark from the cliff. It was wild. So, by the way, I have a height problem. So we got up there and I was kind of like, what am I doing here? Because I did get to within a foot of the edge of the cliff and my brain just wouldn't go any closer.
Well, on the cliff, so it's really flat and it just drops off. But on one part of the cliff, there's just a little rock segment that went like that. Mm-hmm. So you could, I crawled.
Yeah.
You can crawl and get up on that rock segment and look down. Mm-hmm. I don't know distance. I couldn't even tell you, but I would say it was at least 20, 30 stories.
It seemed very tall.
It was high. And it's just rock on the bottom.
Yeah. So he got closer, but was careful, thank goodness, because otherwise I would have been very much like a mom, like, no. But so I looked down and I saw what I thought was a fin, and I was like, no, that's got to be a rock. So I looked away. And then about 30 seconds later, there were 3 young girls who were lying flat with their, head and shoulders leading off the cliff. And one of them just screamed, "There's a shark!" And it was that. Somebody on Instagram did say there are not sharks that big in this part of the world. So I think that's got to be a dolphin. But they did say at the visitor center that they had like a wall of animals that you could see. And there's 4 or 5 different varieties of shark. And our neighbor was a biologist in a former life, so we showed him the video, and he said that's a shark. So,
and he's from St. Thomas, so
so he's like, I know sharks.
Yeah.
Yes.
Teddy would have rid that shark and said, "Let's go."
That's right.
God, so we touched on Galway,
and then was the Cliffs of Moher.
Cliffs of Moher.
Oh my God!
So from the Aran Islands, where Dunangassa is, you get back on the boat, and then you go to the Cliffs of Moher.
Yeah.
And the Cliffs of Moher
is past the other 2 islands.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a shipwreck on one of them that's up on the water.
Cool.
Really cool.
Yeah, I need to blow that picture up and see how it turned out.
Yeah.
But the Cliffs of Moher are like miles of these just straight cliffs.
Gorgeous.
They're twice as tall as the Statue of Liberty,
which is hard to wrap your head around.
I know.
And we had wrestled a little bit because you can hike along the top of the Cliffs of Moher. So we were kind of like, are we going to be missing out by not doing that? Because our friends basically took a tour from Dublin, and they would drive you from Dublin over, and then you'd get out and hike the cliffs. I think what we did is great because we still got a cliff at Dunangassa. And then you get to see because the thing is, when you're on top of the cliff, you can't really see the cliff. So I liked doing it from the sea, even though I was terrified.
So I didn't know this. Greg was very nervous on the boat, and the boat was literally going like this.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there going, wee!
Yeah.
It's like I went out on the deck, got splashed by water, and just running around the deck and having fun with all the waves and the rocking. And Greg is over there going,
I was.
oh.
But gorgeous scenery. And I'm so glad we did it. So, and you bring out a sense of adventure in me.
I do. Real quick, let's just run down some food.
Oh, yeah.
Lots of fish and chips.
Yes, we did eat a lot of fish and chips.
We ate a lot of Guinness and beef pie, or stew.
Guinness and beef stew, and shepherd's pie.
Shepherd's pie, which has lamb.
And cold cannon potatoes we had on our last night.
Yeah. We did a cooking class, so that was a lot of fun.
That was a lot of fun. And then we did have haggis, but we had haggis kind of as a spring roll. So it was wrapped in phyllo.
Yeah.
And it came with a plum sauce. So we did eat haggis, but not in the traditional way.
With lots of plum sauce. It was actually good.
It was. I thought it was delicious.
Very tasty, so I loved it.
We drank you drank a lot of Guinness. I can't drink Guinness because I get migraines. So for whatever reason, if I drink a beer or like a Guinness, I immediately get a headache. So I drink a lot of Jameson and cider. Thistly Cross cider in Scotland. Check it out. It's amazing. Rockshore cider in Ireland. Also amazing. So
I think the best meal I had was we had scallops on boxties. And a boxty is like a potato pancake, which we just learned like weeks before we went to Ireland about a boxty.
Yeah.
And we got so excited.
Yeah.
So didn't see it a whole lot around Ireland, but it did come. So it's just a little kind of mashed potatoes, shredded potatoes, mixed up with chives, sour cream, and just fried.
Yeah.
And so I had scallops on top of that with just a little light velouté sauce around it. It was so good.
So good. It was so good. That was at King's Head in Galway. It was so good. And I had ordered fish and chips, which were good. They were amazing. But that was...
Your best fish and chips was made with haddock and not cod. So, and it was so buttery.
And that was in Edinburgh in Leith.
Yeah.
At the Granary, which is a restaurant down there. You can walk. Leith Walk is this big, wide street, and lots of fun shops and things to do. And then when you get to Leith, if you work your way to the seafront, there are a lot of restaurants, and we found one there. The first one we found actually was not seating anyone because they were going to be full. Sorry, we had a problem with the phone. Teddy's now over here. So the fish and chips at the Granary were great because the chips or French fries that you get over in Ireland and Scotland can be pretty bland. Like they're not the star of the show in any way. And there were only like 3 chips that we got that were kind of similar to what you would find in America. And the Granary was one of them. But really the fish, it was, I think it was a haddock.
Haddock.
And it was like buttery and just delicious. So
is he getting restless?
I think he is restless and ready to go. So we're gonna say goodbye to Teddy.
Other foods we had.
I had a really good shepherd's pie. We stayed with pubs for the most part because we kind of thought we're here to eat Irish food. So we stayed with pubs and got like a lot of fish and chips, shepherd's pie, beef and Guinness stew, and the things like that. Because in Ireland there are a lot of, and Scotland too, there are a lot of Chinese food restaurants, Thai food restaurants, Italian food restaurants. Yeah. We decided not to go with those. We ate really well.
We did, yeah.
Doing that. So O'Neill's, which is a pub in Dublin that kind of faces the statue of Molly Malone. I had a really great shepherd's pie there. And I was a little pessimistic about food there because it seemed much more like a bar. Yeah. I guess that's an American perspective, but it was really good.
And I think even the bars there have they try to have a high standard to their food. Their food can be kind of bland and boring, but I think they're trying to make it a little...
Yeah, I think we ate well.
I thought we ate well. I only had one bad meal. And if you ask me now what it was, I couldn't tell you, but... It was my fish and chips at the Brazen Head.
See, and what I would say, the one bad meal, and I feel bad saying this, would be the CC Blooms. Which was
I'm trying to forget that.
Yeah.
Let's just not talk about it.
Never mind. But we did, on that note, we visited the George, which is the oldest gay bar in Dublin or in
Dublin.
Ireland
or
total.
Maybe even Ireland.
I think definitely Dublin.
Sure.
And it was 1986 is when it was founded, but it was criminalized before then, which is just wild because the Brazen Head is the oldest pub in Dublin and it was created in the 1100s.
1100, yeah.
And the oldest gay bar, 1986. We just went there for a drink, and that was nice. And we went to the Regent in Edinburgh, which is a gay bar. Very like cozy, sit down, play a game, and have a chat. That was kind of nice. Do you know what we forgot?
What?
Greyfriars Bobby. One of my favorite things on the trip.
God, it was.
Yes, we have an ornament of Greyfriars Bobby somewhere. We didn't bring it in here. But, God, so if you're unfamiliar, I knew this was going to be like a sad thing, but also a beautiful thing because Greyfriars Bobby was a Skye Terrier who had a human who had been a police officer in Edinburgh. And after 2 years, the person died of tuberculosis, I think. He was buried in the Greyfriars is a church. So he was buried in the cemetery there. And Bobby spent the next 14 years guarding the man's grave. And originally they would try to chase him out and get rid of him, but he kept coming back and he was really determined. And then eventually the groundskeeper for the cemetery just started taking care of him and feeding him. And someone who worked for the city gave him papers so he wasn't like a vagrant dog or anything like that. And then eventually when he died, he couldn't be buried in the cemetery because...
So stupid.
Just bury the dog near his person.
I know.
They
he was
buried
there 14 years.
Yeah, but they wouldn't bury him in the cemetery portion. They buried him just a little bit separated from where his human was. And they built a statue. I think the thing that touched me so much about it is, one, the statue is beautiful. Yeah. There are actually two. There's one in the churchyard and there's one just out on the street. And the one on the street, you can boop the nose. We didn't do that, but a lot of people did. But what's really beautiful is people come and they're really emotionally touched by it. Like people were leaving sticks and flowers for Bobby at his tombstone. It was just, we're going to cry if we keep talking about this.
I literally did cry in the cemetery.
Yeah, it was very emotional.
And it was just days after we celebrated Jamie's birthday, which while we were there. And we went to the Jameson tour, the Jameson factory that night, and had
a toast
to Jamie. And so she was still on my mind.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, for sure. It's really emotional.
Yeah.
So.
I'm sorry.
No, please. It's okay.
But the statue is beautiful. The yard, I mean, it's in a big circle.
I'll put a picture.
A big circular yard. And the flowers there are phenomenal.
Yeah.
Just so beautiful. And they don't let people walk on it, which I'm so happy about.
Yeah.
But then you can go outside the gates and they got another statue of Bobby that you can touch and rub and
you can
photograph
boop the nose. Yeah. So that was another highlight. Yeah.
But we toasted Jamie a lot because we drank a lot of Jameson.
And we toasted Guinness a lot because I had like one or two Guinnesses and then you had a lot.
I think I'm not a big drinker, but I think my final count was 11 Guinnesses, 8 Jamesons, and 6 fish and chips.
Across 17 days?
Yeah.
So, so it was a beautiful trip. Yeah. We are now like 35 minutes into this video and we haven't gotten to our monthly. So do we want to just make this about the trip or do you want to talk about what you read in May?
I'm going to do a quick rundown.
Yeah.
I'll just tell you if I liked it or didn't like it because...
Yeah, let's both do the same.
Yeah. So how many did you have?
I read 9 books. So do you want me to go first? And I'm going to do the same thing.
Okay, go first.
So the first book I read was Fire Exit by Morgan Talty, which is actually going to be released the week that this video publishes. So if you haven't gotten a copy, get a copy. I really loved it. And really quickly, I just saw an article Morgan Talty wrote for, I think, Esquire, where he talked about blood quantum. And I don't think I had mentioned the aspects of this about blood quantum, because one thing that I was thinking about as we were talking, basically the character grew up on the Penobscot Reservation, but because his mother had married in, as soon as he turned 18, he had to leave. So the book really deals with that. But I was thinking it's like about the idea of how you can be part of something and people might try to define it based on like your genetics. Well, I'm half Italian. So people in Italy could be like, you're not really Italian. I'm only like 13% Irish or 13% Scottish. But they both feel like a big part of my identity. And yet no Irish person that we met would be like, you're not really Irish. They said, hey, welcome. That's really cool. And this book deals with a lot of stuff like that. So very good book. You know I love Night of the Living Rez.
Yeah,
so
it's on my July read. So
yes. So that's out now. And that's probably the most I will talk about any book that I read this month.
My first one was The Prospects by K.T. Hoffman. It was I can't say it was a queer romance of a gay man and a transgender man
Well,
playing
actually,
baseball.
which is both men. That is
Yeah.
a gay romance.
It's a gay romance,
Yeah.
but I don't think one identified as bisexual too.
Okay.
So, and it was just a really, really sweet story, and they a lot of steamy scenes in there, but I kind of appreciate it when they write really good sex scenes with transgender people to understand what some of their insecurities are and what they're happy to do.
Yeah.
So it was actually a good book. I really liked it, and it dealt with some really good issues too. So
It's on my pile of possibilities for June, and I'll put my pile of possibilities video down below, so I might catch up.
what's next?
Next is something that we both have in common. I don't know where it is on your list, but it's James by Percival Everett, which I ended up thinking was just fine. What about you?
I read it last month, and I thought it was good. I think he took some liberties of changing the story of Huck Finn.
The ending threw me.
Yeah.
So-
I'm not sure I loved it.
Yeah.
So
But I'm glad I finally read a Percival Everett book.
here's one we have in common. On the way over to Seattle, we listened to Holiday Heartstrings. It's an Inner Walker book, male on male romance, and it's the fourth of the Heartbridge series, which we've done we always do them on a road trip, which
We
is
always
fun.
do, yeah.
And so we did the 3 on a road trip, and then we did the 4th one. So we're keeping up with it. But it's like this little tiny town in Montana that has all these gay men, and they've had like 3 Australians and 1 Englishman.
2 Australians, 1 person who was American, but he of German heritage,
yeah.
so his name is Gunter, and then a British person in this book.
So they come into town and they fall, but they all come in right at Christmas time.
Yeah.
So it's they call it the curse of the Santa Claus and Cupid.
Yeah, something like that.
And
it
they're
sounds cute.
adorable.
Yeah, they are. And this one in particular, because as I mentioned in my Friday reads, there's an element of like found family, because now the people from the previous books are forming a friend group.
Yeah.
And I really responded to that.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay.
My next was this library book, a graphic memoir called I'm So Glad We Had This Time Together by Maurice Velcoup. It's about him growing up, coming out, even though he had a religious family, and coming to terms with who he is. It would be a great read for Pride. It's often compared to Fun Home. I do think Fun Home is better, but this was really good. So that was my next one.
My next one was The Cookbook Club by Beth Harbison.
Harbison, I think. Yeah.
I found it by accident, and it was about a book club and chosen family, and it was just okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's because when we were in Montana Book Company on Independent Bookstore Day, you hand sold like 3 books to a woman. And she told you that she had just read a book about set within a cookbook club. So you looked for it. And she said that was not it, but it sounded interesting.
So it's the only one
did
I
it.
could find. So
Yeah. So that's how that ended up happening.
Matt, if you're watching, it's not that great. What's next?
Well, my next one was Holiday Heartstrings. Do you want me to just jump to the next one?
Sure.
It was Brick by M. Tasia.
I'm sorry.
It's fine. No, it was a fine, good book. So Joel has read a bunch of M. Tasia's books, and I had been wanting to do one. So when we were on the plane, it took me like an hour to read it. It's like 100 pages. So I didn't love it. I prefer N.R. Walker, but I could be convinced to do some of the others.
I would say if you got more into it, you're only introduced to the first 2 characters, but then the next 6 books are the other characters, and they build this family of support, and
Which I just said I like.
They all marry and other guys, and so it's this big community and this big family of men that are good people. They take care of others, and they have a security company, but they really try to help. Somebody's kidnapped and somebody's in trouble, so they really go out and help other people. So I like the goodness, the heart, the family.
Yeah, and I think really the problem I had with it, I mean, the writing's not 100% great, but it takes a lot of shortcuts because it's so short. Like, basically, Brick sees his love interest do something nice, and he's like, oh, well, that just goes to show he's a good person. Am I in love? And he is in love. So it's like, it takes these leaps and, like, shorthand in order to move the plot forward in a way that kind of doesn't feel believable. But it's still not bad.
Yeah, it's all love on first sight.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be true.
That's how I met you.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that was my next one.
My next one, we're in Toppings in Edinburgh.
Oh, yeah.
And I like Adam Silvera. And so I kind of look and say, oh, look, here's an Adam Silvera book. It's called History Is All You Left Me. Mm-hmm. And so I decided to do it. It was good. It was this... And I found it really unbelievable because it's this 16, 17-year-old kid in high school who had a friend for 7 years. In the last 6 months, they started dating, and love of his life, but he wanted to go to college on the other coast, so he went. Then he met a guy on the other coast, and they kind of fell in love for like 6 months. Well, the guy in common dies. And so the two exes, or the two boyfriends, come together to get themselves through the grief. And then it gets a little crazy. And it was just like, I understand death is hard. I really do. But this kid's life was ending after, I mean, it's his best friend, but they dated for like 6 months. And I found a little bit of it just a little too much. Everybody just catered to every need 2 years later. Like, oh, you're okay. And it just was a bit much. But it was okay.
Yeah. Which is a shame, given that you liked the other books.
I love Adam Silvera. He's done They Both Die in the End and The First to Die in the End. And I really liked them.
Yeah, so maybe think about those if you're interested in that. My next one was something I picked up at Hodges Figgis. I had mentioned that it's really large and feels like an independent bookstore. And then somebody reminded me, and I knew this at some point in the past and forgot, Waterstones bought Hodges Figgis at some point. So it's actually not an independent bookstore anymore. But I did get this book from them. It's Amongst Women by John McGahern. And I really loved this a lot. And again, check out my Friday Reads video. I'll talk a lot more about it. But I'm really looking forward to reading more of John McGahern's books. I loved this. And I read this while we were traveling around Ireland and Scotland.
My next one was Finding Shackleton by Daryl Bristow Bovey. And you all know I love Endurance, the Shackleton adventure. Yes. And you know I just read The Ship Beneath the Ice, which is the finding of Endurance. So I got so excited. And plus the cover is really beautiful. I got really excited about this. But it's just a retelling of the other two books by another person. But he threw a lot of his personal life in there, which you're not Shackleton. I don't care.
Yeah. I think, especially for somebody who knows as much about these things as you, it was probably nothing.
Yeah, it was just like a retelling of the same story, and it wasn't done that exciting. So it was okay.
No. And there you go. And then another book we found, and actually I
love this cover.
I love this cover. I'll try to hold it so you can see it. But, and actually most of the Fairlight Moderns, that's the publisher, look like this. And I told Joel, and I think I mentioned this in the Friday Reads, I looked into other books from them and they have an amazing catalog. So definitely check them out. I really like this book. I thought it was charming. And I encourage you to, I'll have links to anything that's available in the US down below for a bookshop. And this is, but also check out the Friday Reads for more information because I talk a lot more about that one, which is set on the Isle of Skye.
Yeah.
And fun. And also deals with seaweed. We have a common theme.
Yeah,
so
no. You got that at the Golden Hare?
The Golden Hare, my favorite bookstore in Edinburgh.
Really awesome bookstore.
Yeah, really. If you're ever in Edinburgh, it's closer to Dean's Village, which we didn't talk about, but Dean's Village is amazing.
We're moving to Dean's Village.
Yeah, we're going to live there. Teddy's going to love it.
Yes.
It's going to be great.
Yeah, we got a little spot right there on the water.
Yeah, we picked a house. I don't know if it's affordable or for sale, but we picked a house. But
the person was really nice and picked some good books.
Yes.
And she goes, the publisher's really nice, and I only like nice people.
I really loved that because she said, I really only like to recommend books by nice people. Like she really recommended In Ascension by Martin McInnes, which had been, it was longlisted for the Booker. I don't remember if it was shortlisted. I don't think it was. But she said 2 people from the store had worked with him and he's a lovely person. So she recommends his books all the time. And she loves this publisher because they really tend to deal with nice people. So
my last book was Chef's Kiss by Stephanie Shea. It was actually good. I don't know how I found it, but I was scrolling through and it was a chef. I think I Googled chef books, and it's a lesbian romance, and it's this 1-star Michelin chef and another young lady who just graduates culinary school, but she really wants to work at the restaurant Gia, and in San Francisco. So she moves across country, applies for a stage. She works 6 weeks as a stage, that's working for free, to see if they like you and you like them.
It's like an internship, but...
And they fall in love. But there's a lot of things to it. But outside of that romance portion of it, there's little small stories that are happening. And I like the small stories.
Yeah.
And I would love some build off of these small stories.
So I might catch up to this.
Yeah. So
especially with Pride Month.
I really liked it. So
yeah. So I might catch up to it.
And the steamy scenes weren't bad either.
Yeah, because a lot of people usually ask about that. Yeah. So. My next one was Night Watch by Jane Ann Phillips, unfortunately, and I'm not going to talk about it. I have a whole video about why I think this is a terrible book. I'll link it down below. So, did you have any others?
No.
So the last book I read in May was Small Joys by Elvin James Mensa, which I really liked. I thought it was great, and I'm going to make Joel read it. You were already interested.
Yeah, it's number 2.
Yeah, you were already interested in it, but we found an audio here in the U.S., but I just had to get this, and I really liked it. I thought it was great, and I think you'll like it.
Yeah.
I think it might make... It's very emotional, so there could be a lot of... No, let's talk about Greyfriars Bobby again. So it's a very emotional book, and I think it might hit hard. But great book. Yeah. So highly recommend that to anyone. And again, check out the Friday Reads for more about it. And you're going to potentially read it in June.
Yes.
Yeah.
So my June Pride is starting with, I'm so excited, The Guncle Abroad.
Yeah.
Stephen Raleigh, who wrote The Guncle, which we both loved. We just got The Guncle Abroad, so he takes the kids over to Italy, and I'm really curious to see what part of Italy they go to.
I think because there's a wedding, that's why they go, and the wedding is on Lake Como, but I do think they go to Positano or the Amalfi Coast, which we love. Yeah. We went there, Yeah, and I'm so excited because basically Joel's going to be on a road trip, so we're letting him read it first, and then I'm going to catch up to it.
Okay, let's not say road trip. I'm going to Wyoming for work.
He is. So
that's not a road trip.
Thoughts and prayers.
What's your last book?
That was my last book. So I'm starting June with Tin Man by Sarah Winman, which is gorgeous cover. Yeah, I had started this on audio, and Sarah Winman reads the audio, and it's really good, but I decided I liked the text so much that I'm pivoting to the print book. So I need to figure out what my first audio is going to be, but I am reading Tin Man at long last and really loving it, and that's everything. We didn't even cover the books you got from Ireland and Scotland. Do you want to do that really quickly?
I'll go very quick.
Yeah, because they're mostly cookbooks.
Yeah, well,
not all of them.
Mostly.
Not all of them.
They're all. So one I got, it sounded really good. Chef Interrupted by Travis Gleason. It's a nonfiction book about a man who has a stroke. I think his wife leaves him. He loses his job. He has nothing. Well, I think he kind of goes through a little bit of rehab, but he doesn't know what to do with his life. So he moves over to Ireland and becomes a chef.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited about reading this.
And there's a dog involved.
There's a dog. Of course, we had to get a little book on Guinness.
Yeah.
It's kind of broken up in 3 little sections.
Yeah.
The history, the advertising, and recipes. So
the advertising is really interesting.
It's a lot of fun.
And the recipes actually, the reason we got it is because the recipes actually look good. It's not just like a throwaway thing.
Yeah.
This we learned about from the woman who did the culinary class.
The cooking class. She was a lovely lady.
So we bought this in the airport.
But Avoca is a restaurant. Avoca is a restaurant over there. And it's broken into winter, spring, summer, autumn, and some really great Irish recipes.
A chocolate plum cake.
Chocolate plum cake. But there's ingredients in here. Just by glancing, I don't know what they are. So I will research, I'll Google. And
you already have some marked.
Yeah. I got some marked there.
Yeah.
But if I can't Google and find out what it is, Jackie McMenamin, I'm calling.
Yeah. And then one more. We couldn't say no to this.
Yeah. We had to get a coffee table book.
Yeah.
So it just is broken into just a bunch of different stuff, but there's some gorgeous photographs in there.
Yeah.
And it goes into a bunch of different castles and just everything about Ireland. And I just thought it was a beautiful book. So we picked it up just so we have a coffee table book. Yeah. I may actually mark the places we went to in there.
That would be fun.
Just so like if Betsy came over, she could kind of read a little bit.
And we could kind of quick reference. Yeah. That'd be cool.
So that's all I got.
That is May.
That's May. I would like to throw one thing out there. Thank you to everybody who commented and supported my cinnamon bun video.
I'll link it down below.
And I really appreciate you guys sticking with it. And even through the technical difficulties, we had fun. And the comments were really, really great. I appreciated all of them.
Yeah.
So
you did a good job.
Well,
you did a good job. Oh, and by the way, in Edinburgh, if you want donuts, go to Room and Rumors.
Oh, hell yeah.
And good coffee. Yeah, you can say that. Yeah.
Donuts and coffee.
Yeah. They have a rotating menu of what flavors of donuts. There was a pistachio white chocolate, lemon curd, They have like a blueberry lemon. It's all good.
A lot of vegan fruits, vegan strawberry, vegan raspberry.
And we had a vegan strawberry.
Yeah, it was
was
good.
delicious.
Yeah.
It did not taste like a vegan donut at all.
We had a cinnamon roll. We had some cardamom nuts.
Chocolate babka nut.
Babka nut.
Really good.
We got a scone. We got a cheddar and jalapeno scone that we ate one morning for breakfast.
We were supposed to take it and have it for lunch that day, and we forgot. So it was a little crunched from being in the backpack with all those Christmas ornaments, but
well.
it did eat very well. So Room and Rumors in Edinburgh if you need a donut.
Yeah.
So
all right.
and that's May. That's a
Wow.
lot. So thank you for sticking with us if you have made it, and thank you for joining and talking about it.
A little hairy coo.
Little Harry Coo. I'm still so glad I found that t-shirt for
love
you.
it.
So anyway, we'll be back to talk about everything we read in June. And
Happy Pride, everybody.
happy Pride. Let us know
Yeah.
what you're going to be reading. I have my whole video down below.
Yeah.
We don't have enough time to really talk about what you might do.
Nah, I already said so.
Yeah. So happy Pride. Let us know what you're reading, loving, and all that stuff. And we, as always, we appreciate your time. We'll be back. Until next time, happy reading.
Bye.